Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julia and this is a library card education. Today I'm announcing that I have my first partnership. So I reached out to 5 in a row, I don't know, let's see, this is mid-August, I want to say 6 to 8 weeks ago, letting them know what I was doing with the book list series that is based on 5 in a row or inspired by 5 in a row that I wanted to design based on library card education using the resources that you can find for free at your library or on the internet, YouTube, for ages pre-readers on up through high school. And I asked them if they would be interested in doing any sort of a partnership to kind of spread the word and get the information out about their company and to help maybe spark some interest from fellow YouTubers or those that watch YouTube to kind of give it a go and see what they can get that's not like your typical curriculum. It's a very unique sort of a curriculum. It's a unit studies, but it doesn't box you into a unit study. It doesn't tell you what to say and what to do. It gives you suggestions. It gives you ideas on questions and prompts that you can ask your children, different things that you can look at, different things you can discuss, how to extrapolate information from the books, especially picture books, and how to expand on ideas that you read in some of the chapter books. So it's really nice. The books tend to be available by and large at your library. If not, they are books that your library can very easily source from other libraries in your area. It's a very user-friendly, it's a very budget-friendly, and if you combined 5 in a row with my book list series, you will see how you can make a wonderful, deep feast of an education, feast of ideas for all ages and ranges of interests. So without further ado, I want to show you the books that they sent to me. Now they gave me 3 books, including one of their digitals. They gave me the book 7, volume 7, volume 8, and their PDF of all of the activity pages. This one I'm really excited for. So let's start with book 7. Book 7 and book 8 are the books that they consider for your middle school, upper elementary into your middle school children, depending on your child's needs, interests, their abilities. Do you have precocious readers? Do you have struggling readers? So all of that's going to be taken into account. So they give you a guideline of ranges. So that's what it's for. And in this, you're going to be using a lot of books from the series Childhood of Famous Americans. So in this book, you have Helen Keller, Skylark, which is not a Childhood of Famous Americans. You're going to have the story of George Washington Carver, and the Cricket in Times Square, also not in that series, but it's so easy to find that at your library. You can get hardcover, you can get softcover, you can get large print, and I think you can even get audio of that particular book. So we'll just use Helen Keller throughout this video as our example. So it always gives you a teacher summary of what it is that you can glean from that chapter if you yourself don't want to or don't have the time to read. So they'll give you a little synopsis of what you can expect and what will be covered. And then they will break down all of the different subject matter that they're going to learn or can cover in that one chapter. So social studies, science, language arts, and fine arts will be in this particular chapter. And in this chapter, you go over the history of scarlet fever, which I have personal experience with. It sucks. And science, human anatomy, the eye. So it breaks down all of the different parts of the eye. And it helps to give you some guidance on telling your children what to research, things that they can look at, such as nearsightedness, glaucoma, blindness. How does blindness occur? Blindness from childhood, blindness from illnesses. And then we've got the quote of archaic technology of quote unquote deaf and dumb and why that was used. I wanted to highlight that you have persuasive writing and persuasive arguments. So to show you that you can have a more relaxed homeschool education, something giving you a guide, giving you ideas on what you can do, and you'll still get all of your language arts, your different types of essays and writings. And so it goes through the character of Miss Anne helping Helen, and then Miss Anne will need to present her ideas with persuasion. And then it gives you all of the information you need about making a persuasive argument. Now I have the original versions of these back when they were released decades ago, but I really like these. It has all the white space and it has all of your printables inside each manual. I highlighted this because if you've watched my videos, you know I like to get into conspiracies. So you can study the United Nations, and it actually brings that up, and you can study the United Nations, but you can also study why they chose that, and it is suspected that they chose this based on the flat Earth map system. So research that with your children. And ew, I don't like anything anatomy, it makes me squeamish, but it breaks down the anatomy of the human eye. And so your children will fill that out. They're getting plenty of science. They're going into chapter 3, and so all of your senses, you can do research on all of the senses. And now we're going to skip ahead to the story of George Washington Carver and some of their printables. So if you notice on this page, it's exploring trade school options. Very important for today's culture. We are so lacking trades, and this is going to help your child to explore trades that may be interesting to them. Start planting those seeds early. You'll of course get mapping in ways to earn and save money, and insect identifications. All sorts of wonderful, fun ideas. Cooking, music, art, obviously vocabulary, virtual field trips, and your schedule that you can use. And the index breaks everything down, just like all 5-in-a-row manuals do, into the subjects, and then the different themes within each subject that you can study. For level 8, you will be reading Neil Armstrong, Young Flyer, Marie Curie and the Discovery of Radium, the introduction and tips for Hitty, her first 100 years, and then students, the note to them before starting, and then actually getting into the book itself. And that takes up the vast majority of this book, is that one study. So you can build and design your own model airplane. Again, just showing you all the different creative things that you can do. You don't need to spend a lot of money getting things for your children and giving them a nice, broad education. Metaphors and similes. The history of Prussia and Germany. And then you'll have writing and discussion questions. Vocabulary terms. Where does rubber come from? That could make a great deep dive on its own, especially nowadays when rubber is starting to become quite scarce. Knot making, for all of the Charlotte Mason enthusiasts, knot making is considered a handicraft. You can do outdoor cooking. You can find so many YouTube videos on that. You can do your own segment on outdoor cooking. You can learn how to season cast iron. So many great things. Goes into NASA. So you get to decide what perspective of NASA you want to study. Isaac Newton and how he invented calculus. So you compare that one with Life of Fred. That would be a fun one. Vocabulary sorting exercises. Timelines. And if you've been following along with my 5-in-a-row inspired book list, you'll know that we just did New York City, bridges, boats, and lighthouses, and we discussed Ellis Island. So here's a connection to that. So as you'll notice, that was from volume 2, I believe. So you're gonna find these themes come up time and time again, and it's gonna act as like a spiral or you can use it as a mastery base so that what your child was too young for or not interested in at that time, volume 2, when we get to this volume, you can discuss those things again and reintroduce those things or introduce the topics that they weren't interested in to begin with. So there's so many ways to use it. More human anatomy. You could do notebooking with that so that as you're going through these things, either use these sheets or have them draw and diagram their own. You can get those sketchbooks from Amazon or Rainbow Resources or the dollar store if they have them. And you can just have them diagram all of these things throughout the course of their education. And you're gonna be left with a very thick or a couple of thick journals for keepsakes, but also for your portfolios if your state requires those. Writing and discussion questions. I don't know why that was hard for me. Sound waves. You can research supersonic waves. You can get into all of that, especially because you were studying airplanes and rockets. There's so many great things, especially if you live in Florida. You can go watch all the planes take their practice and go to the different G levels. International geography. So many great things. So many great things. Topics on self-sacrificing, being a good sport, manners, periodic table I just saw in there, drawing, prairie landscapes, Caribbean islands, cameras, so many wonderful things. And again, your schedules and your indices. And then the last one, I only printed this cover so that you could see what it looks like. But if you get this download from their website, and their website is the only place you can get this, you will get a download of something like 500 pages, 400 to 500 plus pages of all of those printables in the book. So if you just want to use this, but not the manuals, or you're like me, you don't like to break your spines, you don't want a bunch of creases in your spine, you don't like how the copy looks when you make it on your printer, it's always got that black bar no matter what you do. All you have to do is print these off from here. It is such a valuable resource. I am so glad that they made this. I have been asking for something like this for years, and when I discovered it a few months ago, I was jazzed. So look into that. Look into 5 in a Row. It's a great company. I will give you background that it was the company that got me started on book collecting for my children, that got me into deep diving other resources and other books for my children. When my oldest was a year old, she was so tiny, and I started collecting the 5 in a Row manuals and all of the books, and then all of these go-along books that I was finding, and then go-alongs for go-alongs, and it just kind of developed from there. And then that kind of sparked my interest for Charlotte Mason. And even though I don't consider myself Charlotte Mason anymore, it helped to spark the ideas that 5 in a Row uses some Charlotte Mason techniques for inspiration. And that kind of inspired me to dig into those things and then find how that fits within my family, for my personality and our culture and our home. It's just been a really good experience. I use 5 in a Row personally as a book list idea. So you'll see that by watching my videos. I don't necessarily follow all of the talking points that it gives you to use with your children, and you don't have to, or you can. I don't. I use it for a diving board to research further things with my kids and to build book baskets and strewing baskets and all sorts of things. So give them a check, or check them out on their website. Go to their website. You will find all of their manuals. You'll find their download. You'll also find mini units, which we have used several over the years. I love their Thanksgiving one, and we did their birds one several times. I forget what it's called, but we always end up doing it around February, just before the birds start migrating back to our area. And those are about $10, and they range from ages 2 to 12, and it's very easy to make that age range up into high school if you want to do that with your children, especially if you are like me, who is relaxed and eclectic. So check them out. I want to thank 5 in a Row and Carrie Bozeman for her sponsorship, her partnership, for giving these to me and my family and letting me share them with you. And I thank you all for your time and your attention. And I ask you to like, subscribe, share, and say hi to 5 in a Row. They're a great company, second generation owned. And I'll see you guys in the next one.